Ahoy music lovers, vinyl enthusiasts, and everyone in between. I'm Isaac, and this is The Blind Island. I'm so happy to have you here today. Today I'm going to be jumping on a vinyl tag for 2021. This one was started at Tales from the Man Cave. Fantastic channel. If you don't subscribe to him, you definitely should. He's one of the pillars of the original vinyl community, and he always has a back catalog of fantastic videos. Thank you so much for setting this one up. Really happy to be jumping on board my first vinyl tag for the year. So let's get started with the questions. First question is a discovery in 2020, and that is going to be Tom Griffin Winslow, Inner Octaves. I freaking love this album. It was in my top 20 albums of 2020, and it's just an amazing folk blues record, released on a private pressing. I think that, they are very difficult to come across. I found this one in an antique mall. It actually has a signature from Tom Winslow, and I love the tunes that are on here. Really great discovery in 2020. Then next one is a quarantine buy, something you bought while you were in quarantine, and I am going to go with an album that I purchased from the record store I used to work at, and that is Head, self-titled. This is created by a guy who went by the name of Nick Reicevek. I think that's how you pronounce his name. And this was an incredibly difficult release to find. He really was a vanguard of experimentation in ambient music, noodling on Moog, and this is just a really ambient piece, psychedelic, really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed this album, and it was a great quarantine buy. Next is a box set. I'm gonna have to tell you guys, I'm not a box set guy. I know that a lot of people in the music community, the vinyl community, love box sets, but for me, they don't really trip my trigger. So I had to kind of be a little bit creative and going on the fringes, but I'm gonna go with Kamasi Washington's The Epic. This came out in 2016, or 2015, I apologize. And it's a 3 LP set, and it just came in this nice, heavy stock box, and it's a phenomenal, sprawling new jazz epic, and very happy to have this one in the collection. And I consider this one a box set because it has almost 3 hours of music, so really cool stuff. Next is an LP you want in 2021, and one that I'm just going to be locking in and really trying to find this year is the Louvin Brothers' Satan is Real. That is an album that continues to elude me. The Louvin Brothers are one of my favorite country duos of all time, and I would love to find an original pressing of that. Willing to spend a little bit of cheddar on that, so if you know of anybody who is selling a copy, please shoot me a comment, let me know, because I am definitely on the hunt now. Next is a concept album, and I chose Aphrodite's Child 666. This is a great record. This basically is the concept of doing the Book of Revelations in album format. Very psychedelic, very trippy. Started by Vangelis and a couple of other people. It is very proggy. Any fan who enjoys psychedelic prog is really going to enjoy this. This one is on the original Vertigo label, US pressing, and thoroughly enjoy this record. One I am super happy to have in the collection. So great concept record and super trippy, so cool album. Next is an album where an artist changed directions, and I can't think of any other artist that had such a stark change as Tom Waits on Swordfish Trombones, going from a jazz lounge singer into the underground junkyard composer that he became in the 80s. It was a very stark transition, and one that I love. I love this album, and I love everything past this too. I think, Tom Waits is one of my top 3 favorite artists of all time, And I'm so grateful for this because he staved off becoming stale in the 80s, where a lot of other great artists were just floundering and trying to pander to the youth at the time. So really cool record. Next is a white label promo album, and I have Mingus This is a stereo white label promo on the Columbia label, 6i. I found this one in an antique mall for $10, and man, this is one of the most cherished albums I have in my collection. It's super good condition. Love this record. Next is a compilation album, and I had to go with Nucleus Direct Hits. This one is a later compilation, came out mid to late 70s from the UK, and you know, it's so hard to find Nucleus albums that are a decent price. They're usually going for outrageous money, $200-$300, but this compilation usually only goes for $20-$30, and you get some of the best hits from their classic albums, and I'm just super happy to have this one because I'll probably be as close as I get to getting original Nucleus copies. Next is an album that tells a story, and that is going to be Willie Nelson's Red-Headed Stranger. This country epic tells the story of the wandering preacher who goes through town to town and basically his interactions. Great story concept record. It's a very loose story, but one that you can follow, and I mean, this is just a great country album too, so I highly recommend this for anybody who has given up on country or says that they shouldn't listen to country. Give Willie Nelson Red-Headed Stranger a chance. Next is a common album and an uncommon record. And I was just choosing what I usually see in dollar bins, bargain bins everywhere, and that is Earl Garner's Concert by the Sea. This is an original 6i mono copy. I don't know how common those are. I feel they made hundreds of thousands of these. So I have a feeling that even the originals are very common, but this is a record that you're going to see in pretty much any record shop worth its salt, and it's a great jazz album. Highly recommended, and it's a good one for beginning if you want to wet your whistle in jazz music. This is a really great traditional jazz album. And an uncommon record is Midget Color by the Number. This is on the ESP label, and this is just really crazy acid folk. If you are a fan of people like Ed Askew, then you're going to really enjoy this guy. He hits octaves that are mind-blowingly high. He kind of has this weird yodel going on. It reminds me if Tim Buckley at his weirdest point during Star Sailor had taken even more acid, and this is probably what he would sound like. So really cool record, very difficult to come across. Next is an EP, and I think I may have slightly cheated, but I do consider this one an EP. This is Bauhaus's Bela Lugosi's Dead. This is a 3-song, a single, 12-inch, but each song is very meaty, robust, muscular, and Bela Lugosi's Dead lasts about 9 minutes. I consider this one to be an EP, and I thoroughly enjoy this. This is a classic of post-rock, and one that should be in anybody's collection that really enjoys it. This is an original UK pressing, still in the shrink, and very happy to have this. Next is an all-girl group, and that is going to be The Angels, My Boyfriend's Back. Love girl groups from the 60s, just the clapping, the snapping, everything. It's just a lot of fun, and there's a lot of twee innocence that's involved. Really cool, and I thoroughly enjoy this album. You can usually pick up copies of this for very cheap. And another question, I think I may have even brushed past it, is an album that you would like to have issued on vinyl. Now I had to think about this one, but a record I really would like to have is by a band I loved when I was in high school by the name of House of Heroes, and the name of the record is Say No More. I played that CD all the time when I was in high school. I loved them, I jammed to them, and I would really, really like it if they had that reissued. I highly doubt that they will. They still aren't that big of a band. And also they're pseudo-Christians, so that also puts them down at the very bottom for what people would want to reissue or even press for the first time. But it's a really cool record, and I thoroughly enjoy it. Really good kind of pop, punk, emo music that I still have a very soft spot in my heart for. Next is an album cover that you love, and that would be Copeland, Blushing. I mean, look at that. That is just one of the best covers I have ever seen. Just these two lovers bleeding in and out of each other. You don't know where one begins and the other ends. It's just a gorgeous piece of art. I love that photo. I love this album art, and it also comes on that really nice blue splatter vinyl. This is a gorgeous record, so I love that album. Really, really cool. Album that you listen to the most of, and you know, I have to go with Bob Dylan's Blood on the Tracks. I have 3 different versions of this record. I return to it time and time again. It's one that I know all the words by heart. I love this record. Really, really great. Next is one that you just had to have an OG of, and I've shown this one multiple times on my channel. I don't care, probably show it 1,000 times more, and that's Mingus, The Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. I remember that I traded in, I think, 5 albums to just even get a discount on this record. I love this album, and I had to have an original mono copy on the Impulse label. And it's in such clean, I mean, this thing is clean. The vinyl is EX, and the sleeve is VG. Unfortunately, it was probably a part of some sort of club, and they had some damage to the back, but I don't care. It's a great album. I spent the money, I traded in some stuff. It doesn't matter. This is definitely one that I need an original copy of. So very cool. One of my top 10 favorite albums of all time. In my top 3, actually. Then, last album purchased was the Bauhaus Band, self-titled. I've been looking for a copy of this for quite a while, and I did not purchase it on Discogs. I actually found it in a record store. It has not gotten a reissue from my understanding, which is a real shame because the Bauhaus Band is one of the best Afro-funk groups playing right now. One of my favorite contemporary bands. And this was a great pickup. I love this album, and the album artwork too is just killer. So really great to pick this one up. Next is an album that they just don't get. And I think I'm really with the creator of the video where he says free jazz is fantastic. I also really like avant-garde rock, and one that I thoroughly enjoy is the Hampton Grease Band, Music to Eat. So this band only came out with 1 record. Apparently this album sold so terribly that they only sold a little bit more than the Maharishi Yogi's Yoga album. It's one of the worst selling albums in Columbia Records history. And I don't understand, because it's a fantastic album. It's a fantastic record. It used to be a lot more expensive online, but it seems to be dropping in price. I highly suggest that you take advantage of that and get a copy of this. If you're a fan of Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band, it sounds a lot like that, mixed with the Allman Brothers and Grateful Dead, where they go on long jams. Really, really cool stuff found in here. And I usually try and introduce this to people, and it doesn't click for a lot of them. They think that it's just weird sounding, the singer is a little too grating, and whatever have you. I love it. I think it's great, and I think that people are missing out. Then, a punk record that you have. And one that I've shared this one too. This was one of my favorite albums of 2020, but that's Cat Burglars, self-titled. Only album that these guys ever came out with, and it's a real shame because this is just raw, really dirty, gritty, fast-paced punk. I love this album. Really spits in your face, knocks out your teeth, fast-moving music. So really cool album. And I'll never remove this little description because I just love the description that's on there, that was put on there by the record store owner. Really cool record. Then your favorite reissue of 2020, and 2020 was jam-packed, full of great reissues. And one that I got for record store Black Friday was Karen Dalton's It's So Hard to Tell Who's Going to Love You the best. And man, that was very close to getting on here, but I had to go with Ice, the Ice Age. And this is a record that had never been released before. And I got the Noble Records variant, and it's a super great hard rock psych album. Love that red splatter. Very, very cool album. And the fact that it had never been released before, I deemed it a significant tragedy. So this was my favorite reissue of 2020. Really cool record. So guys, that was my vinyl tag entry for 2021. What did you guys think? Go ahead and enter into the thread. I would love to see your answers. And I hope that, as always, that you guys have a great day on your own personal oasis. Cheers.